When we last left off with the Flash storyline, he decided to go into the Mirror World, team up with Captain Cold and Mirror Master, and they had to figure out what was going on. Now it's time for us to continue that Wally West story, because when they came back, all three of them discovered that Keystone City was kind of missing. It's time for the stories of Wally West Flash from Jeff Johns to continue, right here at Comicstorian. When we last left off, Wally West discovered that he was actually in a mirror world, and when he found his way home, he discovered that whoever had arranged the entire thing with Captain Cold and Mirror Master had also taken the entirety of Keystone City. It was missing. Mirror Master and Captain Cold had been tricked, and they didn't know that this was going to happen, and now all three of them stood on the outskirts of the city. Wally looks back at the ring on the ground and he asks, Who did this? Who took away my home? Cold says, the guy never gave his name, just to get rid of you. But Keystone City was supposed to stay here for our taking. Mirror Master looks at the ground and says, this glass and silver residue? Keystone wasn't destroyed, it was taken. Mirror Master starts looking around and he says, I need a reflective surface that's been here. And then he sees the Welcome to Keystone sign. He says that he'll need a clean surface too, but Wally already went ahead and sandblasted the sign down to its molecular level, and Mirror Master says that that should be good. By twisting the photon impressions and expanding them, they can see the visible spectrum, basically like watching TV and fast forward. Mirror Master hits the back of the sign with his gun and he begins to show the image of Keystone City and then a bright light. And in that light, a face appears and the city vanishes. Wally grabs the two of them and he says, there's gotta be something left behind! And he runs towards the center at top speed. Mirror Master finds a piece of metal in the shape of a coin. He takes it and he places it in his gun and he says, this ride might be different since this is a reality on the other side of this little quantum coin. Wally shouts for him to do whatever he needs to do, and Mirror Master pulls the trigger. There's a flash of light and the world begins to change around them, and suddenly, they're looking at Keystone City, but it's different. As everyone looks around, they hear some men singing off in the distance. Everyone moves into the forest and they see the three men all singing, making the armor red, we're making the armor red. The men begin flinging paint and hitting the armor with weapons, and Wally asks, what the heck is going on here? Cold looks at the bucket of paint and he pulls out a severed pig's head, telling them, this isn't paint, it's blood. Wally then notices that it's the Pied Piper, and he asks him what he's doing. He explains that their king sends them off to battle every morning, but the problem is their king has already killed all of their enemies. He just won't hear that there's no enemies to slay. Wally looks back at the armor and sees the symbol, and he says that this is the one that he had when he was Kid Flash, just modified. Wally grabs the Pied Piper asking, what does the king have against Kid Flash? And Piper says, fine, I'll tell you a great story of our king, Brother Grimm. Long ago, there was a king who loved his people like the farmers loved their crops. One night, the king was murdered by his advisor, known as the Tin Reverend. The Reverend then sent an army to slaughter anyone who opposed them, led by one Brother Nightingale. Soon Nightingale killed off the last of the opposing armies, but his brothers, Grimm and Angor, found another village, one that he called Earth. With their flux machine, Nightingale was sent out to destroy it, and his son Angor wanted to be a warrior like his father, but Grimm did not want to see more bloodshed. So Grimm sent a warning to the village of Earth, and then he received an answer from the greatest hero of all time, the Flash. The Flash and his friends stopped Nightingale and they returned home. But before leaving, Kid Flash told Grimm that Grimm can be anything he wanted so long as he lets no one tell him otherwise. So with Kid Flash's words, Grimm decided that he didn't want to be the king, and he gave his crown to his younger brother. But seeing the way that their father treated their people, Angor hung his father and then slowly started to turn into the same man that their father once was. A great war began, and Grimm was forced to put an end to his brother's terror. And he blamed Kid Flash for telling him not to become king. If he had become king, none of this would have happened. His people would still be here and the kingdom would have grown. Wally thinks on it and he says that he remembers meeting Grimm, but the advice that he gave him was twisted. And then he asks, where's Grimm now? Suddenly, a blue and red flash starts to circle around them and everyone falls to their knees. A commanding voice shouts for them to get on their knees. Royalty is present. Flash gets up and runs after Grimm, but before he can touch him, Grimm grabs him by the wrist and throws him to the ground. As Garrick runs after Cold and Mirror Master, Grimm says that he knew of their arrival and he can sense when other dimensions are accessed, so there is no way to sneak up on him without him knowing first. Before Garrick, who apparently has now been brainwashed and working for Grimm, can grab Captain Cold and Mirror Master says that it looks like it's the live to fight another day and all that jazz, and he brings both him and Captain Cold back to the real world. Wally shouts, where's my wife? And suddenly Grimm appears above Wally, telling him that it's good to see him again, and then he stomps down. Time passes and Wally begins to open up his eyes, hearing the people cheer, and then a feeling of a tomato being thrown at him. Wally West realizes that he is on a platform and his head is in a guillotine. He looks over and he calls out to Jay Garrick, but Jay doesn't respond. Seconds later, Grim walks onto the platform telling Wally that he can't escape. That wood is anthropic oak. The more shockwaves that he sends through it, the stronger it gets. Wally tries to vibrate out, but the more that he shakes, the more that he can feel the wood around him shifting and adjusting to keep him in place. Grim then calls out to his princess to come up and address the people. Wally looks over and he realizes that it's Linda Park, his wife, and she shouts, "Off with his head!" As the crowd cheers, Wally thinks that this is the man behind it all, Brother Grim. Since Grim was short on subjects from the conflict with his brother and father, he sought to replace them with the people of Keystone City, and he wanted to put everyone under his spell, his brainwashing spell. Grim begins to tell Wally that he has grown into a brave man, swift and strong, but he is also stupid. Wally tells him to hurry and get to the point, and Grim punches him. Wally thinks about how he loves to get under people's skin, and Linda screams, "Off with his head!" And she releases the guillotine. As the blade begins to drop, Wally begins to focus on the velocity of the weight of the guillotine, and as Linda sees it, she throws another tomato at him. With that velocity, he uses it to phase out of the tomato's way and then uses that force to destroy the guillotine. As a booming sound of a crack-a-boom rings out, Wally frees himself running and grabbing all of the shards of the guillotine, except the ones aimed at Grim. Wally begins to run towards Grim, and Grim knocks him back down, shouting, "I already told you, I can predict where you're going to be," and then he slams his arms into the ground. Vines begin to shoot up, grabbing Wally by the throat, and he manages to vibrate and cut them to pieces. But then Jay runs in, punching Wally, and using his speed, he grabs Jay by the arm and flips him over the ground. Wally thinks that he could reset Jay's vibrations. He can send him home and break him out of this brainwashing, and as he focuses on Jay's energy, Jay's body repels him back. A voice then calls out that if it ain't one of the Flashes causing a problem, it's another. Wally looks back to see Captain Cold and Mirror Master, and he says that he thought that but Cold stops him, telling him, "We weren't going to let you take down that idiot alone." Grim then throws out a deck of cards, and as they land, they begin to turn into creatures, and the three of them get to work stomping them. Wally thinks that even though it's these two, he needs their help, and he also needs some help from Jay. So after he taps into Jay's Speed Force energies, he runs over, transferring it to Captain Cold and Mirror Master. Cold then asks, "Why are these guys slowing down?" Wally tells them, "No, I sped you up. Just keep in mind that this is only temporary and it might sting. So what I need for you to do is gather up everyone and make sure that they're all within Keystone when I finish things with Grim." As Wally takes off, Cole tells him, "Of course. Have fun climbing up the beanstalk over there." Up in the castle on the beanstalk, Grim looks into the flux machine and says that Flash will not be taking back Keystone. But then stops, telling Wally, "I know you're there. Come out." Wally looks around and says, "That thing is mucking up our vibrational signatures, the same device that you used to bring me and Barry here in the first place." Grim presses a button on the machine and he says that that's not all it does. It also reverses molecules. And now we are phasing against one another. The speed is going to kill you. Wally backs up and he kicks Grim, telling him that in the last 24 hours, he learned how to not use his speed. All he needs to do now is destroy this thing. If you want to know about Wally West's adventure without his speed, check out our last video. Wally pushes the machine over, destroying it, and then he begins to beat on Grim, telling him, "You only have yourself to blame for this. You were supposed to be an artist, but instead you twisted my words and blamed it on me." After punching Grim one last time, Linda begins to snap out of her spell, and Wally runs over to catch her. Grim then starts to escape through the broken shard, shouting, "I will be back to claim my world." After returning to the town, everyone is gathered up, and Wally begins to run, resetting the vibrational frequency of Keystone City, which returns it to its original location. Wally then looks out on his city, thinking that Grim will be back, but next time, he'll be ready for him. Before leaving, Wally feels a snowball hitting him, and Cole tells him, "It's a goodbye gift. But that damn speed, it messed everything up. I felt like I was going to vomit. Now, I need a drink." Mira says, "Drinks on me! So cheers, Flasher!" Wally smiles and he runs back home, and as Linda wakes up, she says that she's going to guess that he can explain the blackout that she just had. And what is she wearing? Wally takes Linda by the hand and he puts the ring back on her finger, telling her that she may have dropped this. And as for the dress, he kinda likes it. He kisses her, and then she stops him, telling him to slow down there, Speedster. She wants this to last. And there you have it, the conclusion to the first major arc of the Wally West Jeff Johns storyline for The Flash. Kind of a crazy twisted turn, but I am really enjoying the direction that this is going in. Don't forget, next week we're going to be bringing you more Deadpool core, and the week after that will be more Wally West Flash. Let me know in the comments down below what you're enjoying more, Deadpool core or Wally West Flash. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date on all of your favorite storylines, and I will catch you on Twitter at Comicstorian. Right here is going to be our Flash playlist. Right over here is going to be something by YouTube. Right down here is going to be me giving you a subscription button. I'll see you next time right here.